I didn't break anything. This is RamView. Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the September 22nd, 2025 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair, having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. I said it, shared it yesterday afternoon after the Ram game and RamView wrap-up that I posted. I'm not lit because of this game. I didn't break anything. It's not like the Ravens game a couple years ago. It's not like one of those recent Packer losses. It's not like that loss to the Steelers in 23. It's not like that loss to the Dolphins. It didn't drive me crazy because, one, I predicted the Eagles by a score. I moved off of the Rams at the last minute. I'll say this, even if Josh Carty made the field goal at the end, the Rams didn't deserve to win this game. And I know deserve has nothing got to do with it, right? Eagles deserve to be 0-3, but they're not because in critical moments they play like champions. And if everyone stays healthy, field goals will become touchdowns for the Rams. So the Rams could have stole one, and it would have been great, but they didn't. And being honest, most of us expected them to be 2-1 at this point in the season anyway. So in a 17-game season, you got to have the maturity to deliver the knockout blow, and they didn't today. Those field goals killed them in the first half. And I think that was the other thing that while going into the game, I had flipped from Friday to Saturday. I took the Eagles, and I thought, man, I'm happy to be wrong. By the time they got to Hurts with Versus strip sack and then the touchdown right after, I thought, okay, I was totally wrong. Eagles got major issues, and no, we're in good shape. All right, cool. We're going to do this. But there was still that lingering thing there in the end of the first half, those field goals instead of touchdowns. And it should have been 27-7, 27-10 at worst, something like that. And it wasn't. And the Rams probably should have blown that game open, but they didn't. And we know when you're playing a champion, whether you think they're the greatest team of all time or not, when you're playing a champion, if you don't put them away and you give them air, which means air is that 4-point wedge between 3 and 7, and you give them that kind of air, they're going to come back. They're going to breathe that air, and they're going to come back. And credit to the Eagles. They did. Now, I think the Eagles got a whole host of problems because what's the issue with not getting the ball to A.J. Brown? He's a matchup nightmare for the Rams, but A.J. Brown's a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. And there's something else at play there, and someone should be held accountable that it took them that long to go to A.J. Brown. So most important thing is we broke down the game. Everyone's talked about the game, and Rams were up and all that stuff. Most important thing going forward, and I haven't seen anything different, but to me, Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's always great. He was pretty good yesterday, too. He put the team into position to win that game, right? When he had to be, he was great. But he had too many misses yesterday for being Matthew Stafford. And I'm still waiting news that something in his back or leg, by the way he was reaching back, is tweaked. Something seemed wrong. He doesn't miss like that very often. Once, twice, over the course of a couple weeks. I didn't think anything of the pick in Tennessee, and I don't think it had anything to do with this week. But, boy, he missed some open receivers. Now, his receivers might have let him down a little bit, but he missed some open receivers. Number two, here's the other thing that we got. It's really important. 3 blocked kicks in 2 weeks. Chase Blackburn and the special teams, they need to get some holes closed up. And I'm kind of curious now that I think about it. Has Carty missed a kick this year? Or have his misses only been blocks? And if you look at that last one, low trajectory or not, Carter and Davis absolutely destroyed Havenstein and Limmer on that PAT. That was an embarrassment. That was an absolute, it was almost like the Eagles knew the snap count and the Rams didn't, and they got blown out, blown off the line of scrimmage because of that. And that was abysmal. That was terrible. So there's an issue there with special teams. Although I do like Xavier Smith. Don't you feel confident with Xavier Smith back there? I do too. And I did like what Cardi did for most of the game with the kickoffs. 3, the Rams ran the ball well. And I thought except for the 4th and 1, they mixed things up pretty well. I think that was a really bad call, 4th and 1. Dotson left the game with an apparent cramp late in the 3rd. Avila missed another game. And I'm just driving this home again. We knew he was doubtful, but you have to have a conversation about Steve Avila, right? You have to. You just have to right now. He's going into his contract year next year. What do you want to do with Steve Avila? Rams need to draft an interior offensive lineman. And I'll say this. This is I hoped my walk around the block, my snarky conversation was going to be about Emmanuel Forbes getting a pick 6. But let me say this. How do you feel about Coleman Shelton today, right? How do you feel about him? Oh, he's not an embarrassment, right? He's not an embarrassment, but he's the Christian Roseboom on an offensive line. He's a guy that probably shouldn't be a full-time starter. He's a spot starter. He's a guy that give you 2 or 3 games. He can play some guard. But a starting center in the NFL, the Bears couldn't wait to move off this guy, right? The Bears couldn't. So he's solid, but like Christian Roseboom, the Rams saw Nate Landman out there, and they said, we can do better. Solid, but the team can do better. On a money down, Coleman Shelton is not the guy you want in the middle of the line. He's not going to move the sticks, right? He's not going to move somebody off their point of attack. And I'm not saying Bo Limmer is the guy. I wanted to find out if Bo Limmer is the guy. Rams made a determination about Bo Limmer. They decided to go out and get Coleman Shelton. But in this case, with Coleman Shelton, the Rams chose comfort over being bold. And usually they're pretty bold. But like I said, there's certain players like Troy Reeder. They're comfort food to the Rams. They know the offense. They know the defense. And the Rams chose Coleman Shelton. And Coleman Shelton, you saw it. You can't run a sneak with him against a decent defensive line. And obviously we saw it yesterday when the chips were down. Coleman Shelton is not the guy. Sorry. Have to get that shared right now. Steve Ramirez, Forgotten Locale, Wild Samurai. I'll be right there with you guys here in a second. Let me finish with this. Rams do not have a cornerback problem. I do not believe the Rams have a cornerback problem. They've got an A.J. Brown problem. Darius Williams should never be matched up on Brown. We talked about this last year. We talked about it this week. You should never match Darius Williams. He should never be matched on an A.J. Brown. Forbes hung with him in terms of the route and where he was, but Forbes isn't strong enough. Quentin Lake would be a better match, but I don't think Lake has the wheels to stick with A.J. Brown. So there's not necessarily a cornerback problem, which everyone will make it out to be, but they may need another option when or if they see the Eagles in January. So let me go to your guys' questions here. I saw some guys rolled in. Steve Ramirez, feeling a little better today. Just a little. Yeah, I never completely lost it yesterday because I just had that great sense of doom at the end of the first half. And then when the second half started, I thought, man, I was totally wrong, but we saw what happened. Forgotten Locale. Ugly wins are still wins, and we desperately needed that win. I agree. You should never take something out of the bank, right? It was pretty close to being put in the savings account or in the vault. And but if you really look at the Rams schedule, I think most of us had projected them being 2-1 at this point. But yeah, it could be hard. Wildman Samurai, roughest loss I've ever seen since the loss to the Steelers in '79. Super Bowl, unreal. I'm not denying what your feelings are, Wildman. I didn't feel it that way. I'm kind of hoping this is the brain freeze, the brain fart that the Rams have that gets them through the rest of the season so they don't have one of those horrible Miami Dolphin moments like they had last year. They showed, for 2 quarters and 2 corners of the third, they showed that they're a Super Bowl team. The Rams are a Super Bowl team. Of course, they got some things to work out, but they're a Super Bowl team, but they got to finish, right? They got to finish, and they didn't finish. So I think in the end, it's a good thing. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it might be a good thing. Steve Ramirez, DeMarco Farr said Rams have to change their field goal tempo. He said teams know when the ball is about to be snapped. Okay, you know what? I didn't hear DeMarco, but didn't it seem like that? I mean, you ever seen Havenstein pancaked like that? It was almost, again, like they knew. They knew. Absolutely. That's a good pull there, Steve. I did not know DeMarco Farr said that. USA expat. Shelton has not had a good game all year. The film does not lie. Because he is, and I'm with you right there, Chief. He is what he is. We saw the best of Coleman Shelton in 2023. Little more experience in 2025, but think about it. The Bears moved off of him real fast. So I am struggling with that one. ESG, if Jalen Ramsey was there, AJ Brown would have been in check. I think that's a good call. I think that's a good call. I do. It's just, what was it going to take, right? What was it going to take? And you know what? If the Steelers collapse, which Steeler fan Rob does not believe is going to happen, maybe something like that can still happen. ESG, it took a miracle for the Eagles to win. Yeah. Rams, with everything that went on there in the second half, were still a 41-yard field goal away, right? And so in that aspect, okay, it's tolerable. I can live with it. Again, I didn't break anything. I don't know why, but, man, when you start trading touchdowns for field goals, you know. I don't have to tell you guys. You guys know. USA expat, the upcoming game badly needs to be a bounce-back game. I agree. ESG, I was hearing that this was the biggest blown second-half lead in the history of the NFL. Oh, no. Maybe emotionally a blown lead, but you lost to the world champions. I've seen the Rams come back in games against the Dolphins. I've seen the Rams come back in games in Tampa Bay. Not the biggest blown lead of all time, but emotionally it might have been. Tim Burns, Cardi had a good day overall. Yeah, I didn't get a close-up look at the first block, but that second one, boy, man, that seemed kind of iffy there, didn't it, man? That one, because the way Havenstein was just blown back was just, Okay, I'll say this. 3-0, the Eagles are 3-0 when they should be 0-3, right? And I'm going to say this also. I don't know if the Eagles are going to make it past the first week of January. They are cruising for a bruising. They are hanging by a thread. If the Rams played a little wiser, couple things went a little bit different ways, just one kick, they lose that game. CeeDee Lamb holds on, they lose that game. Travis Kelce catches instead of thinking about Taylor, they lose that game. And that's to the Chiefs, who aren't great, right? That's to the Cowboys, who aren't great. That's to the Rams, who should be great, who have the personnel to brag that they're great. So I think the Eagles are doing it because of the champions, but in the end, there's going to be some problems there. And I wouldn't be all, if I'm an Eagle fan, I'd be grateful I banked the win. And yeah, likely they are going to make the playoffs. But yeah, I'd keep an eye on that team. Okay, now I'm going to my whining department. The first two times the Eagles ran the tush push at the goal line, the right guard, Steen, jumped, right? Pereira saw it. They all saw it, right? Now, I don't want the play banned. I told you what I want to have happen with that play. But if that's an issue where they're jumping, park a drone over it. If you can get that overhead shot, consult the camera and get the freaking thing right, because that's kind of a joke. And also, also at a certain point, you got to blow momentum stopped, right? On the initial surge, quite often Hurts is stopped. And then he gets that second little push there. At what point do we declare his momentum stopped? Get the freaking thing right. Don't be cowards. Straighten it up. There's my whine. Second, it seemed the refs, maybe I'm the only one that noticed this because I'm in a whining mood. It seemed the refs waited for the Rams to celebrate the touchdown that Kyren Williams scored before throwing the flag on Shelton. Now, I'm not arguing that Shelton didn't hold there and didn't do a takedown, but didn't it seem a little late? It just, maybe the cameras were late getting on it or something, but it just seemed a little late. And then my third one is the Puka taunting call is another reason the NFL needs another league to compete against. Otherwise, those worthless, stupid, dumb butt calls would never be called because they know what it does. These are grown men. If they can't handle anything, and that wasn't directed at anybody, if you know Nakua, right? I'm assuming the refs watch films. He does that to nobody. If you're prepared for the game, you know he does that to nobody, then you should know better than to throw a flag like that. Honestly, put a fine from the commissioner's office on that official for throwing that flag. That was ridiculous. And the only reason they get away with it is because they don't have any competition. And so you have these ridiculous tweaks and these things they do. These are grown men. If they can't handle their business, then they can't handle their business. And that one especially was ridiculous. Amen? Amen. That's good preaching, Pastor. That's what I thought. All right, let's look at this real quick here. USA Expat. Offensive line is killing our red zone scoring. Our offensive line has the potential to be fantastic. I think it's solid. I don't think we have any problems with Havenstein and Alaric Jackson. I didn't look at any PFF scores today, guys, because I don't always trust PFF. Avila, again, there's an issue there with Avila. Kevin Dotson, it looked like it was just a cramp. I haven't read anything on him since. So hydrate him a little bit, right? Hydrate him, get him straightened out, and we'll do better there. Also, what's the other one there? Coleman Shelton, right? Coleman Shelton. That's going to be a big problem going into the postseason. Steve Ramirez, it was only 19 points. There have been blown leads. Yeah, I agree. There you go. Michael Negretti, hola, Pastor Joe. The Rams need to fix their O-line. That's how we lost in the playoffs. Make a trade at the deadline. That's just really hard to do. That's really hard to do because, yeah, I mean, it can be done, but it's really hard to do because you got to learn a new system, learn all those things, the checks, all those things. It's difficult. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just saying it's hard to do. Let's see. Stafford didn't have a good game, missed a lot of key targets, which led to red zone woes. ESG. Absolutely right. Stafford playing like Matthew Stafford, game's over, right? He hits those throws. Now, I will say I'm not all out on Devontae Adams on that drop late. There was an arm in there. It was contested. I'm not all out on that. But Stafford missed way too many throws for being Matthew Stafford, right? If he was Dieter Brock, yeah, Dieter Brock could overthrow anybody. He could overthrow Gaddafi in Libya, they once said, but not Stafford. And so, yeah, different game. My wine, what do the Rams have against the refs this year? Yeah. Following up on the Nakua taunt, where was the flag when Nakua was held late in the game? Where was that, right? That one was pretty brutal. Steve Ramirez, 49ers and Cards looked ugly on Sunday. Physical game, and it ended. Well, I'll talk about how it ended. I thought it was kind of interesting. Tutu Atwell, one target, one drop, and Travis Rogers popped champagne, I'm sure. Finally, if there are no serious injuries coming out of this game and nothing's broke yet, this, I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy, this is ultimately a win for the Rams. This might keep them from having a brain freeze game within the division, right? And if there's no hangover, but only pure anger at what they did in humiliating themselves in Philly, heaven help the Colts, who are 3-0 this week coming into SoFi. I really believe it. I think the Rams, Indy's played well. They've taken care of a lot of business. Titans aren't great, but they've taken care of business. The Broncos are stumbling. They've taken care of a lot of business. But right now, I think this might have been the thing that kept Sunday's game from being a trap game. And I think they're going to come out and hurt Indy. Now, Indy's a good team. Indiana Jones is playing better than he's ever played before, but Rams should come out and hammer Indy. I'm feeling very confident about this, provided no new injuries pop up. Okay, really quick here. I want to do around the NFL and other places, but let's look at the NFC West. Nick Bosa, gone for the year with an ACL. Nick Bosa's gone for the year with the ACL. Put him on the injured list. There's Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Ben Barch, now Bosa. Juwan Jennings missed the game. Yeah, and we haven't even gotten to Christian McCaffrey going down yet or Trent Williams because you know it's coming. The young, healthier guys are there. Also, Fred Warner's gotten mileage, but yeah, big loss for Frisco. The Cardinals in that same game, while Will Johnson didn't play, their corner, Paris Johnson didn't play, their left tackle, James Conner did, tore up his ankle, required surgery. James Conner, Ram Killer, is gone for the season. And in the Seahawks game, they did exactly what they should have done against the Saints. I'm not overly impressed by it. They did what they should have done against a really bad team. Nick Emanuwari, Julian Love, key components of Legion of Boom 2.0, did not play. Zach Charbonnet did not play. And neither did Devin Witherspoon. Now, none of these guys are gone for the season or anything like that, but just something to keep an eye on there. These injuries are mounting up. I don't like the injuries I see in the NFC West if I'm trying to dethrone or beat the Rams. Rams right now, as of right now, we don't know what else is coming, are remarkably healthy. And that is good news. Other news there, former Cardinal Kaiser White signed with the Tennessee Titans. Marcus Davenport, always on the IR, goes back on the IR for Detroit. CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys, high ankle sprain, out at least 2 weeks. And looking at the Bolts, Najee Harris, torn Achilles. That one is awful. Someone's got to reevaluate the 21st century techniques of athletic training because something is really wrong. Because all we're getting is Achilles injuries and Tommy Johns. And so the guys that purport to know everything may not know everything. So question them all. Question everything. Speaking of the Chargers, it's Harbaugh versus Spanos to me. And right now, Harbaugh is winning. And because I couldn't believe the Chargers won that game against the Broncos. I did take the Chargers, but I didn't believe they would come back and do it. Any other Charger experience in any other era in the last 30 years since Boss Ross days, I'd have said it's over. But Harbaugh is beating the Spanos negativity. And that was, I don't know. And they're getting clicks out of Quentin Johnson. Raiders, too much passion on my part. I need to slow my roll. I thought they would have played better in Washington, and they didn't. Okay, we'll get to the scores and stuff around the league here. Let's look at some other questions there. But, yeah, this is a pretty banged-up team there in Fog City. Let's see. ESG, I agree, Pastor Joe. You learn from your mistakes. Thank you, sir. I do appreciate that. Nick Bosa out for the year. Steve Ramirez, there we go. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, what did you think of Jared Verse and McVay hugging each other after the sack? I didn't like it because it made it look like they won the game. What do you, I didn't see that hug, but you know what? I thought coming off the field at the end of the first half up 19-7, I saw Verse and Young smiling. And, for the defensive performance, they deserve to smile, I guess. But there's just got to be an attitude of staying ticked off and hacked for 4 quarters. Just has to be. And, what I thought? I know the Eagles technically are a younger team. I thought the Rams looked young. I thought they looked young. I thought, okay, they didn't miss tackles like they did the first month of last year, but they look like some of the wing waving and all that. Save that for when you're up 35-7 and there's 4 minutes to play. I understand that could easily get away from him when you're up 26-7, but no, Eagles played like champions. Rams played still a little bit like a young team that's learning what it takes to finish good teams off. And whatever it is, I don't like about Philly. Philly is still a good team, good talent. Jalen Hurts is a heck of a leader. I wasn't overly impressed with his throwing. I thought the Rams lost their way. And then also, of course, A.J. Brown's a matchup nightmare. USA expat Mendoza of Indiana continues to really impress. I did see Mendoza, doggone. I wouldn't have thought anything of it before, but Indiana absolutely went full. Thank you, sir. May I have another on Illinois? How does a top 10 team lose 63-10? Right? So that was just awful. The only thing missing was literally Altmaier bending over and saying, thank you, sir. May I have another? 7 sacks. Suddenly Indiana is playing better. The Indiana football team's playing better defense than the Bobby Knight Hoosiers did back in the day. This was ridiculous. And very disappointing for some Illinois friends that are alumni that I do know. Yeah, that was brutal. But Mendoza looked really good. I'm anxious to see more of him. ESG, I hope we have a Terrence Ferguson party coming out pretty soon. Yeah, that was interesting. I didn't see him on the field. I didn't look at the snaps yet, but I didn't see it. Steve Ramirez, Falcons fire wide receiver coach and passing game coordinator. Hey, send a thank you note to the Panthers, right? They just didn't beat the Falcons. They crushed them 30-0, shook up all that energy they had there in Atlanta. I did not know they fired their wide receiver coach and passing game coordinator in season. In season, they canned them. I didn't know that. Thank you, Steve. Man, Falcons 1-2. Let's move that draft pick higher and higher there. Let's get it into the top 10. That's the best news I heard all day. Michael Negretti, McVay needs to start using Whittington, Tutu, Xavier Smith, and Higbee, bring everything out, even the kitchen sink. I agree with you on all that. I like diversity on all that. I will say this, I did catch part of Colin Cowherd's show where he was slamming the Rams for, or was it them or was it another podcast? I'm trying to remember. They slammed the Rams saying the Rams need to use their third receiver. Well, that they're too reliant now on Adams and Nakua. Well, they are your two starting receivers. And if Nakua's open, you're getting him the ball. And when Adams open, you're going to, Adams didn't have a big second half, but it wasn't because Stafford was neglecting to look at him. And if you got guys to throw to that are, one is a Hall of Famer, the other one's on a Hall of Fame trajectory, you're going to throw to them. And so I loved everything about it. The only play call I didn't like was the 4th and 1. I'm happy with it all. It's great if they do, but if my third wide receiver catches 40 passes this year, I'm good with it as long as Nakua and Adams are out there for 17 games or 16 of them that count. But I like diversity. I would find a way. I'd run they're running that jet sweep now more often than they have in the last couple of years. It feels like Robert Woods is back with the team. And so I'm happy they're running that. Run that with Atwell, do something there. You're giving them 10 mil, right? Maybe you can send, I heard that's where I saw Colin Cowherd when J Mac made a suggestion about L'Jarius Sneed. Send Tutu Atwell and a future pick to Tennessee for L'Jarius Sneed to let him finish the year. That one didn't sound so bad. I thought that was pretty good. That's what I saw today. USA Expat, does McVay need to relinquish play calling duties for one game? No, I think McVay's fine. I think he made one bad one there. One bad one of that rushing play. It's 4th and 1. I want options. I want play action, put Stafford a little bit on the move, free somebody off the line, just options there for 4th and 1. Because you're got your backups in. Your two guards are backups, and then the other interior guy is Coleman Shelton, right? He couldn't push Macaulay Culkin off the line of scrimmage. It's not going to work. So that call I thought was bad. Now when Dotson and Havenstein are in the game, yes, I like the Rams running right. I think that's great. But again, with all that said and done. Stafford was out there for every snap. Didn't look like there was arm strength issues. He missed on some throws, so it makes me wonder, is he tweaked somewhere? Alaric Jackson was out there for every game. Michael Negretti, Rams should have kept running the ball more. I'm always for that. I will say this, though. I didn't think that the play calling was the issue, because if Stafford connects on those passes, then, he's a genius, right? Then McVay is a genius. Okay, Falcons at Panthers. Carolina won 30-0, and there was nothing impressive about Bryce Young. But that is meltdown type stuff there in Atlanta. 30-0. They lost in Carolina, but to lose 30-0. See, that's the kind of game, if the Falcons are who we think they should be, that's the kind of game the Rams would go into Atlanta later this year and blow, right? But now, hopefully, they got a taste of humiliation, a big, fat taste of humiliation at the hands of the Eagles. The Rams will take nothing for granted. Packers at Browns. Funny thing happened on the way to the Super Bowl for the Packers, right? I don't care. I don't care how good people say Cleveland's defense is. You don't lose to Cleveland. Not if you're a Super Bowl team. You don't lose to Cleveland. Maybe that's their hiccup. That was bad mojo. Texans at Jaguars. Jacksonville was 17-10. Jacksonville's not great, but they're finding ways to win. Texans, where was everybody? Right here, you and I, all of us were talking heading into week one. They got offensive line issues. They thought they were going to move off Laramie Tunsil and make things work. I don't know what they're thinking, but they're losing. They're not winning, so they're 0-3. Bengals at Vikings. I picked the Vikings. I didn't think it would be 48-10. Steelers at Patriots. Patriots did a lot of stuff there to win this game. Steelers, more experienced, veteran team, pulled it off. I'm not all in on the Steelers, but Steeler fan Rob is really happy. He's happy the Rams lost. I think he's happier the Rams lost than the Steelers won. I don't know. That guy was giggling all the way from Missouri. Rams win this game in January against the Eagles. Lose. I think we said that back on Friday or Saturday. Rams lose this weekend. Rams win in January. Jets, Buccaneers. I don't know what the Bucs were doing. They're, really messing around there. Good for Baker Mayfield. I really like the creamsicle uniforms. I really liked them. Colts at Titans. Colts 41-20. They were down early, came back and just smashed them. Raiders, Texans. Washington 41-24. Chargers at the Broncos. Now, you could say the Broncos might be the most disappointing team so far of 2025. They didn't put away the Chargers. They were up late. They didn't put them away. The other games they've struggled in. They struggled against Indy. They've struggled. I think the Broncos might be the most disappointing team. I imagine they're going to get it together. Seahawks did 44-13 over the Saints. They did what they should have done against the Saints. Now, everyone's in love with Seattle right now, right? Everyone's like talking Seattle. Out of the Cardinals, 49ers, Seattle is better. Okay, we know that. 49ers barely beat the Saints. I think the Cardinals barely beat the Saints. Seahawks did what they should have done, blew them out. That's probably the Rams' number one competition. But remember, it was the Saints. It could have been Spencer Rattler back there. It could have been Bobby Scott. It was awful. It could have been Dave Wilson, right? Definitely wasn't Bobby Hebert. And the Seahawks won. Cowboys 1-2 now, lose to the Bears. I really thought the Cowboys offensively would exploit the Bears. Bears tightened it up. Good for the Bears. Good for Caleb Williams. They won 31-14. But remember, it was just the Cowboys, right? Just the Cowboys. Cardinals and 49ers bruised each other up. Frisco got a 16-15 win. And, we know about the injuries, James Conner, Nick Bosa. Two things came to mind. One, I saw on some Cardinal talk, some people are starting to doubt Marvin Harrison. He had a really nasty drop there, I think late in the second half. Was it the second half? Whatever it was. Open field, he had a bad drop. But the other one I'll go back to, where's Kyler? I was told Kyler's an elite quarterback. Where's Kyler? He's being paid like a top quarterback. Where's Kyler Murray, right? And that Frisco defense, okay, whatever. They didn't have Nick Bosa, right? They lost Renardo Green for a while at corner. I don't know how serious that injury was. 15 points? 15 points? Really? And two of those are safety points. What was that? So I think the questions are being answered about Kyler Murray, and there was no talk of flu this week. So again, interesting. Best thing to watch last night, Chiefs at Giants. Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo was really fun to watch. There we go. ESG, I was really surprised to see the Browns beating the Packers. Yeah, it was. It was. I don't even know what to say. Right? I don't know what to say. Remember, everyone was crowning them. Right? They went full. Was it Dennis? I forgot his name's escaping. The former Viking coach. Crown him. If you want to crown him, crown him. And this wasn't supposed to happen. They lost to Joe Flacco. Right? They lost to Joe Flacco. Michael Negretti, the mighty Packers lost. Yes, they did. Century 66. Thanks, Joe. You helped keep me grounded. Ugh, tough loss. Yeah, just stay away from me when they lose to the Falcons or they lose to a team they really should have hammered. That's not world champions. I've been known to howl at the moon a little bit in those games. But thank you, Century. I do appreciate it. Michael Negretti, if the Rams can contain Taylor, they can win the game. The pressure will be on Daniel Jones. Hey, who's better? Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley, right? Look what the Rams did. They actually repeated their performance sans 2 long runs. We talked about this in that snow game last year. Barkley had 24 carries for 65 yards, apart for the 2 home runs he hit that covered 140 yards. Rams have stopped Saquon Barkley. They also stopped him yesterday. They have the capacity, more than the capacity, to stop Jonathan Taylor. Although the Colts offensive line is pretty solid, but so was the Eagles offensive line going in. Then Lane Johnson went down. But yeah, I think if everything gets their heads right, and I think this is where McVay is going to be at his best. Rams lost to the Dolphins last year, and people ready to write off the season because that was a horrible loss at home. And then they went and kicked butt, right? And I think McVay does really well at this. That Ram game showed how good this team can be, but it gave them a whole heck of a lot to yell about. And you remember, you lost to the world champions, so you can say, "Okay, we lost to the world champions." They want a piece of this world too, buddy boy, as Riff told the Jets. But I think the Rams are going to come out. I'm feeling right now they're going to hammer. They're going to hammer the Colts. Not to disrespect the Colts, but I think they're going to hammer them. Star Wars 99. You should have won. Yes, I'm saying you should have won yesterday. Star Wars 99. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here, Star Wars 99. Hope you hit like and subscribe. Should have won. Absolutely. Should have won. But at least you gave this comeback back to the world champions and not to the Saints, right? Or in Tampa Bay's case, when they blew their lead, they blew it to the Jets and not the Eagles. Dennis Green, thank you, Steve. That was it. I was going to call him Dennis Allen, and I knew it wasn't that. Michael Negretti, Kyler Murray is a good quarterback, but he's not elite. Yeah, right now I'll say he's better than Bryce Young. He's better than Spencer Rattler. But yeah, he's not elite at all. Star Wars, with me being a Eagles fan. Hey, let me ask the Eagles fan. I've made mention a couple of times, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because we're winding down here. I know because there's football coming up. I don't want to interrupt you guys. Everyone wants to bail because your game's more important than this. But let me ask you, CeeDee Lamb holds on to a pass. Travis Kelce holds on to a pass. Matthew Stafford completes one more pass into the end zone, and you're 0-3. Are you concerned in Philly? And then the other one I wanted to ask Philly fans are what's the deal here, right? A.J. Brown's a matchup problem for everybody in the NFL, not just the Rams. Why did it take a 26-7 deficit before saying that's it, we're going to him? What is it? Are they freezing him? What is the deal there? I'd love to hear Philly fans' thoughts on that. Otherwise, Star Wars 99, thank you for joining us. Michael Negretti, do the Dolphins move on from Tua after this year? Financially, can they? I guess you can make anything happen, but they're not a great organization. They made some bad calls. So I don't know if they would eat the money. You know, some of these better teams, like the Rams, they'll say, you know what, we screwed up. We're eating the money. But I don't know if the Dolphins are like that. Steve Ramirez, do you feel there is a possibility Stafford might retire in light of his buddy Kershaw retiring? Kershaw is a lock for the Hall of Fame. I think Stafford should already be a lock in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think he wants to wait till 2045 before he gets in. I think he wants one more Super Bowl run. I think one more Super Bowl run puts him over the top. If the Rams win it out, yeah, I could see it. Rams get close and he's healthy. Some weird thing happens and they don't make it. I could see him maybe coming back. But I also feel like after 13 years, 12 seasons of getting your butt absolutely kicked in Detroit, right? And you're constantly playing on 6-10, 7-9, the occasional winning team, that he's actually enjoying football and he's experiencing. And really, don't you just love watching Stafford? I do. I enjoy watching Stafford because I love watching a great quarterback. And can you imagine if he had stayed there in Detroit? What we would have lost? I mean, I hated the 49ers, but I never hated Joe Montana. I loved watching Joe Montana. I was never a Dolphin fan, but man, just watching Dan Marino do his stuff. I was never a huge John Elway fan, but watching him doing stuff over his career, it's like you just sit back and you go, these guys are amazing, right? Seeing Peyton Manning with no arm doing his thing, and seeing Stafford still with his arm, still with some mobility and all those smarts, and 12 years of his life wasted. He's like the Andy Dufresne of the NFL, right? He escaped Shawshank, otherwise known as Detroit, climbed through a river of crud just to get to LA, and he's out there in the sunshine, right? So I don't know. I don't know. If he wins a title, he deserves to retire. If he wins another one. ESG, they're going to Tampa Bay next week. And unlike us, Tampa Bay has their number. Yeah, they always give the Eagles fits, don't they? They really do. Tim Burns, they're blaming Wilson for the Giants being 0-3. It's not him, but how long till Dart is the cheaper option? At some point, I think, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of these runs in there where they're just bringing in Dart to get some snaps, it's to make him just a little bit better prepared for when the time comes. That move's coming. It wasn't the picks. Boy, I tell you, the last threat the Giants had, and I understand throwing one ball out of the end zone because no one's open, but that was a fourth down that Russell Wilson threw the ball out of the end zone, and that one just would have lit me up if I was a Giants fan. And at that point, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they make a move. Star Wars 99, I worry for Kevin as offensive coordinator. Hurts owns Kansas City also. There we go. So are you confident, though, Star Wars 99, that this team is going to bounce back and just start crushing people? Because you have the talent to crush. Okay, I'll take a few more questions here. I like the Ravens over the Lions. I went 10-5 this week. If the Ravens win, I'll be 11-5 after going 12-4 each of the first two weekends. Let's see. On this date in 1970, we didn't do Stone Groove.
It was a Stone Groove, my man.
All right. This date in 1970, the Rams signed Elijah Pitts to the taxi squad. Elijah Pitts was the Kevin Falk of the Packers during their Super Bowl years, and he comes to the Rams for one last run. He ends up eventually on the Rams coaching staff under Chuck Knox. On this date in 1987, players went on strike for 24 days. Replacement players came in, and it led eventually to free agency. On this date in 1993, Rams signed future Hall of Famer James Lofton, and he was only with the Rams for a month, played in one game, and in a 37-6 loss to the Saints, he caught one pass for 16 yards. On this date in 2009, Rams signed Danny Amendola, speaking of the Eagles, off the Eagles practice squad. Amendola had a career where he caught 617 passes in 13 seasons. But in his 4 years with the Rams, now think about this. His 4 years with the Rams, he wasn't playing with Matthew Stafford. He was playing with Sam Bradford when he was healthy. He caught 196 passes with the Rams. He appeared in 3 Pro Bowls, and he won 2 with New England. And on this day in 2021, Micah Kaiser was signed off the Rams practice squad by the Denver Broncos, ending his run with the Rams. All right, I think we're good. All right, what else we got here? Need a big night from Detroit's Williams. My fantasy teams are so intertwined that one team does well for me, one guy does well, this guy does, I'm messed up anyway with my fantasy teams, but I do have a ring, right? I got a 2024 ring. Let's see. Star Wars. Eagles coach Nick Sirianni commented on the speculation that it was Jalen Hurts, not offensive coordinator Kevin Petula, who was calling the plays in the second half. So, ooh, man, really? That's wild. That's really interesting. So, yeah, now I know why your OC might be in trouble. That's a wow. And I know Hurts isn't flashy. He had a big game yesterday at the end. I know. I'm not really a crazy Hurts guy talent-wise, but in everything else, he's a great leader, right? You guys have to just love Hurts there in Philly. Not emotional at all. And it just seems like more and more it becomes his team. Wow. I'm going to be looking all over on social media and websites. I'm going to listen to some Eagle podcast talk to hear that Hurts made some decisions, because boy, that would have some ramifications in the coach's room afterwards, right? That they're having some talks today if that was the case. And if so, all credit to Jalen Hurts. Absolutely. Wow. That's interesting. That's really interesting. September 23rd, 1987. That's tomorrow, since we're not on the air. Rams signed Bernard Quarles, former UCLA and Hawaii quarterback, to a contract. Rams signed cornerback Kirby Jackson. Quarles throws a 40-yard touchdown pass to Stacy Mobley. That's his big moment in the NFL. And Kirby Jackson actually picks off a pass for the Rams, but he becomes a 4-year starter in Buffalo and appears in 3 of their 4 Super Bowls during that run. So good for Kirby Jackson. I also thought it was interesting they made note during the Broncos-Charger game that when Harbaugh was on strike in 87 with the Bears, that Sean Payton was the replacement quarterback that came in and played for the Bears during that time. And if you remember, I don't think the football guys got as, how do we say it? The football line crossers, they got as ostracized as the baseball guys did. Baseball players are wusses anyway. I'm sorry. Mike Bush, the first Mike Bush who came up with the Dodgers, they won't play catch with him because he was a replacement player during the strike. And it's like baseball players are wusses, but football players seem to get over it much quicker. And there's so many stars were crossing the line in that 87 strike. They didn't have much teeth to it, but eventually they did get free agency after flirting with Plan B free agency for a while there. Let's see. Michael Negretti, Scubs. Going to call him Scabs. I was at Star News on a deadline night, and I was talking about how the Redskins with Ed Rubert and their replacement team beat the Cowboys in the very last game of the strike ball period there. The players had come back, and there was a Monday night game, or was it a Sunday night game? I think it was a Monday night game, and the Redskins beat the Cowboys, and the Cowboys starters were back, and they beat them with their replacement team. And I remember there was a sports writer I was in the room with, and he called them Scabs, and I said, wow, I wouldn't call them Scabs. And of course I was really happy they upset the Cowboys, but I remember that. Wasn't that what the movie with the Keanu Reeves, Gene Hackman movie, The Replacements, wasn't that movie based on that? Steve Ramirez shows us the difference between those two unions. Yeah, quite a bit difference between those unions. All right, guys, it is pushing on 5 o'clock. NFL football is going to start. I'd hang out here all night with you, but I want to be respectful of your time. So we're going to let you go. Be sure to hit like, be sure to hit share, be sure to hit subscribe. Thank you so much for your support. Check out my football book, Game Day in the RamCave, and see if the Rams can beat the Packers in the NFC title game. God bless. Take care. Time for the Mannings. There you go. Bye.